Welcome to lesson 2 of our first OnShape unit. So here we're going to go over extruded cuts, shells, and sketch text. And to do that, we're going to create a tissue box with some lettering cut out of the front. So since we're doing a tissue box, it's going to be a rectangular prism. So we're going to go ahead and start our sketch. I'm going to use the front plane to start. Again, P for hiding our planes and N for normal. And since it's a rectangular prism, we want to start with a rectangle for our side profile. So we'll go ahead and do a rectangle. And then again, I'm going to just snap it to my point here and draw my rectangle. Click again, and then now I need to put in my dimensions. In this case, I'm going to make it 9 inches long and 3.5 inches high for the side profile of my tissue box. I'll go ahead and hit the green check mark. Again, now I need to extrude this out like what we did in lesson 1. I'd extrude, and I'll select my rectangle here, and now it's coming out of my page. I want it to be at a depth of 4.75 inches. And then go ahead and hit my green check mark. And now I have what would be the outline of my tissue box. I'm going to go ahead and rename my part. And my part studio. Just because that is best practice. And then I'm also going to change my appearance. You don't always have to change the appearance, but I like to change the appearance just because it makes it look a little neater. But now, I'm going to view this isometric. Now we need to go in and actually create our hole up top and hollow it out on the inside. So I'll go ahead and do another sketch so we can cut out the hole in the top. And since we're doing it on the top, I want to select the top plane to put my sketch on. Again, hitting N for normal. So now, for a lot of tissue boxes, the hole up top is an ellipse or like an oval. So next to my circle, I have this little arrow. I'll click that, and there's actually an ellipse tool. I'm going to click it. And now I want the center of my ellipse to be in the center of my rectangle. So how I can do that, just like I demonstrated last lesson, I can come and select the midpoint, but this time I don't want to actually click on it. I want to use my vertical constraint for this one. So I have my dotted line coming down. Now I also want to hover over my left one, again not clicking. Now as I follow this over, once I get to where I'll meet my one from the middle up top, now I have a constraint going vertical from the midpoint of the top line and horizontal from the midpoint of the left line. What that means is that this point right here is actually the center of my rectangle. So I'll click, and then now I'm dragging out my ellipse. But I want to make sure that my first one is horizontal from my center point line. That way it's not at an angle. So I'll click. And then now, again, it doesn't matter exactly where you click on this, just because we'll change the dimensions here in a minute. So I'll go ahead and click. And now I have my rectangle box, or I can change my dimension. I'm going to make this 5 inches wide. And I'm going to make it 3 inches tall. Like that. So now that will be the hole cut out in the top. So I'll hit the green check mark. And now what I want to do is I actually want to cut this out. So I am going to use the extrude tool again. And I'm going to select my ellipse. And by default, it's trying to add it to it. So when we first did it, it was new. Now it's trying to add onto this. But I don't want it to add, I want it to actually remove. So I'm going to click this remove right here. And now you can see that it's actually going into my tissue box. But instead of going a full inch, I want to change that to 1/10 of an inch. Now you can see that it only goes in 1/10 of an inch. So if I hit the green check mark, now I have this little cutout here. So now I have this little cutout here where the hole will be. So now I'm going to demonstrate the shell tool. This one that looks kind of like an empty box. It makes sense since it's a shell. So the shell tool, what it will do is it will actually remove the face that you click on and hollow out the rest of it up to the thickness that you tell it to. So in this case, I'm going to select my hole right here, and I want it to be a thickness of 0.1 inches. Notice that it's the same depth that I made my hole here. And then if I move this around, you can see that it's actually hollowed out on the inside now due to that shell feature. Now, if I was to select this bottom face, it would have opened this up and went up to my top here, including even my depression from my cut for my hole. So then it wouldn't open that up because I didn't select it. So I'll go ahead and finish that. So now I have my actual tissue box. And now I'm going to go in and add in some text on the front. So again, I'm going to start a sketch and select this front face, hitting in for normal again. So now I'm going to go in and add some text. So this right here is my text tool. I'm going to click it. And now I'm just going to draw a rectangle. And then now I can type in my text. So I'm going to do tigers in all caps. And I'll just do the alerta and select that. So now you can see I have my sketch text. So I can actually come in and use this dimension right here to dimension how long this is. Right now it's like a little over 8 inches. Say I don't want it quite as big and I only want it 6. Now it redefined it to where that was only 6 inches. So in doing that, I can get it to where it can fit. I can expand it or shrink it to where I get it to where I like it. So let's just go with the bigger version here. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and finish this sketch. And then now I want to actually cut these out of my tissue box itself. So I'll do extrude again. Click on, I'll hit extrude, and then I'll actually click on my sketch text. And then again, I'll do remove. And now you can see it's cutting through the edge of my box. So there's a couple different options here. We can do blind and we can keep it at 1 inch, or go at least a 1/10 of an inch if we're cutting all the way through. If we don't want to go all the way through, since our depth on our side is 0.1 inches, we can do 0.05 for half that. And then now you can see it cuts into it, but it doesn't actually cut all the way through. But in this case, I want to actually cut all the way through. So now it opens it up. Now I hit the green check mark. Now I have my letters cut out. But if I went to, like, say 3D print this or something, I would have an issue here because this part of the R is floating, right? So one way that I can fix that, if I go back into my sketch, I can actually right mouse click on my sketch and do edit sketch or edit text. And then I can change my font type. So if I do stencil and select, stencil does a good job of not having anything to where it's floating. So none of my parts are floating. So if I went to 3D print this, it would print just fine. and that is our tissue box.